Hello and welcome to the Slackware ARM vlog. In this episode we're going to be having a look at the HoneyComb LX2. We'll have a quick look at the tech specs of this and then I'll assemble it into my PC case. Thanks a lot to Brent Earl. Brent's one of the Slackware contributors and one of the core contributors to the ARM port of Slackware. And he's done all of the research and testing and development for this, and I've productized his work and blended it into the operating system. Because the intention has always been to have the HoneyComb LX2 fully supported in Slackware. So you can buy a HoneyComb LX2 as I've done. You'll be able to download the Slackware installer, do a little bit of configuration, boot it up, install Slackware, reboot into the OS. And then the life cycle in terms of the management of packages, kernel upgrades and everything is exactly the same as all of the other hardware models. So there's been a lot of work that's gone in to make this happen. So I'm really excited because I actually got this about a month ago, maybe more now, and I just haven't had time to do anything with it. And I've been waiting to blend all the support into the OS so that I can just follow the install guide that Brent's written and then install Slackware onto my Honeycomb. What I intend on using this Honeycomb for is to become the master build host for the Slackware AH64 port. And that's essentially just because the technical specs of this, as I'll show you, are far superior than anything else that we currently use or support. And to me, the benefits of having a faster machine are really that I can move forwards far more quickly. I can try things out and not have to wait 8 hours for something to build. It's just going to make things a lot easier for me. So I'm really looking forward to being able to run Slackware on this. So let's get going. So let's have a look what we have here. So we've got our box, slide off the cover. Okay, so in the box, we've got the board here. Okay. And some empty bags. I'm not really sure what those are for, and that's the extent of it. Okay, so yeah, the box comes with some empty bags and the board like this. Okay, so let's remove it from its bag. Okay. The HoneyComb LX2 is an NXP Layerscape LX216A. It's a 16-core ARM Cortex A72 SoC, or system on chip, 8 megabytes of CPU cache, and it can support up to 64 gigabytes of DDR RAM up to 3200 megahertz speeds. As you can see, the board uses a standard ITX form factor. This means that you can install it into a standard PC case, which is what I intend to do. As you can see here, it has a 24-pin power header. So this means you can power the board from a standard PC case's power supply. It also has a front panel header, so it can be easily placed into a PC case, and you can use the reset button, the power button, and the USB port that you may have in your PC case as well. Here on the right-hand side, it has 4 SATA ports on board. That's really great for storage. It has 4 10 gig SPF ports for high-speed networking. So this is fiber. Here, a serial port for remote console. So for the other hardware models, you have to buy a separate USB to serial adapter and connect them up to the board with using the GPIO pins typically. But here, that technology is built into the board. So all you need to do is connect a micro USB cable here. It has 1 gig Ethernet here, and dual USB 3. This port here, where my thumb is to access the micro BMC, or the board management controller. And through that, you'll be able to power up and power down the board. You'll be able to read the sensors you'll be able to reset it and also flash SPI. It has a standard Gen 3 PCIe slot here. It also has 4 NVMe slots. So Solid runs sell RAM with the HoneyComb LX2, so you can buy it from their website with RAM included as part of the package. But it's quite expensive to buy it as a package with the Honeycomb, so I bought it separately. But the thing is that the RAM that they sell has been end of sale for a number of years already. So I checked out the technical specs of it. I bought what I believe is the successor of the RAM that they sell. And so I've bought So this is the RAM that I've bought, and as you can see, it's 2666 megahertz. Okay, don't really want that. I'll be installing 32 gigs of RAM into my HoneyComb LX2. The 32 gigs of RAM is comprised of 2 separate 16 gig RAM modules. So I'll install these now. Like that. Pop it in, push it down, and turn it around so you can, there we go. Now you can probably see it a bit better. So slid it in, click. I haven't installed RAM in an ARM machine for I don't even know how many years, probably 15 years, because usually they're all on board. The last time was on the Castle Ionix, and then prior to that was the RISC PC. So there we go. I did think about going for the 64 gig of RAM option, but I thought it's excessive. I don't need that much RAM for my purposes, and I just didn't want to spend the extra money on it. But I thought that wasn't a good use of the project's funds. So 32 gig though will be a nice improvement over 4 gigs that we currently have on the Rock Pro 64. Okay, so the RAM's in. I think all I need to do now is install it into my PC case. I don't have a backing plate, so I'll see how to address that in the future. But also this case didn't come with any screws, which I think is a bit strange. But I haven't bought a PC case in many years, so I don't know if that's to be expected or not. Fortunately though, I have my probably 25-year-old box of screws that, that can contain a number of screws from old PC cases in the past. So fortunately I can screw the board into the case. So I've screwed the board into the case. Let's start with the easy stuff first and connect up the power header. Okay, so I'll now connect up the front panel for the reset button and the power switch. It's quite easy, that goes in there. Hard drive light, power LED, reset switch. Oh, okay. So I'm going to wire in the reset switch here. I'm referring to the diagram on the Solid Run website. Okay, so I've got the reset switch in. Then I need the hard drive LED, which is this one. Fortunately, the pins are color coded, which makes it a little bit easier. Power LED, let's connect those in. So I'll now connect up the cable for the USB ports on the front panel. Pretty easy to do because one of the pins is blocked, one of the holes is blocked, and there's a missing pin on the board, so that makes the orientation quite easy to determine. Okay. I think that's in, that's good. I've got an HD audio cable, but I don't really know where that goes. I don't think that connects to anything. Okay, so that's good. Looks a bit messy in here at the moment, but yeah, well, it's not too bad actually. The only thing I'm unsure of at the moment is where to connect the case's fan. Well, I'll figure that out later. Okay, so I've assembled the HoneyComb LX2. I just need to get myself a micro USB cable to access the serial console on it so I can boot it up and start installing Slackware. So then I want to find myself a backing plate. Maybe I can find one of these on the Solid Run website, or maybe there's some options, I'm not sure. And then I just need to figure out how to power the case's fan, because it's not immediately obvious to me where I'd connect that to on the board, but I'll figure that out later. It's not particularly important at the moment. Okay, so the Honeycomb is assembled. I've also connected an SSD drive to one of the SATA ports. At the moment I'm just going to slide it in there, but eventually I'd figure out a way to properly secure that in the case. I've connected the Ethernet with a bit of a dodgy looking Ethernet cable. I've also connected a micro USB cable to the serial console. And this is just an old cable from a mobile phone. In fact, actually it's from my ancient BlackBerry, as you can see with the logo there. So that's in there. I've written the boot firmware onto an SD card. I've got that in the SD card slot like that. I've also written the Slackware installer to a USB stick. And I think if we have a quick look here, dmessage, tail, you can see here that the USB to serial converter has been detected on my Linux box on my desktop machine, and we are ready to go. So I've made a little script that just well, I'll show you what the script is. It just runs screen. I've set up screen with logging. I've set the baud rate for the serial port to 115200. Okay, so if we run that script, okay, it's currently nothing on the screen. Let's now apply power to the Honeycomb. Okay, you can see it's booting the firmware. Press escape on my keyboard here. Okay, and you can see, and probably hear, it is a little bit obtrusive. That is pretty loud, and it's not something I could have in my office. It's just, you know, in the server room it's okay along with all the other machines, but yes, that would have to be replaced with something else. And there are many options you can pick. It is a standard sized CPU heatsink and fan, so you can replace it with anything on the market. In Brent's user guide, he says to scroll down to the boot manager menu option. Oh wait, I didn't put the USB stick in with the Slackware installer, so let's quickly pop that in there. Let's see if it appears in the boot manager menu. Kingston generic USB SanDisk, that's the one. USB SanDisk. So I just press enter apparently. Install Slackware by serial console. Well, I guess that's the one. Although I think we probably want to change that menu. Now, as you can see, I don't have any graphical output here. I could add, and may do in the future, add a PCIe graphics card to it, but at the moment I don't have one. So I'm going to select to install Slackware using the serial console. So let's try that. Alright, so the Slackware installer is booted. Okay, so to make this a bit easier for myself, I'm going to install over SSH. So I've got the serial console open here, and I'm just going to grab the IP like this, and then SSH to the installer. So by default there's no root password on the installer. If you're going to be installing Slackware on an unsecure LAN, then you'd want to set the root password, which you can do using a kernel command line parameter, but we don't have one by default. Okay, so I'm SSH'd into the installer now. We already have some partitions on my SDA, which is the SSD, and those partitions are because I've taken this disk from a Rock Pro 64. You need to create, right, so you actually need to create a 100 meg EFI partition first. Fdisk. So let's just delete this stuff. Okay, let's delete these. Delete. Okay, so we need plus 100M. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to great. Right, so let's do this. 100M. Right, I just need to change the type. This should be the correct type. And then we just need to create ourselves some more swap. So I'll give myself, I might as well give myself 8 gig of swap. That tends to be what I do. Type 282 and then, okay, so that should be good. So we'll write that. Okay, Honeycomb. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so add swap. No. Format that. But has not been formatted. Yes, I would. Okay, so we're going to install over NFS. As I'm currently developing the Linux 6.6 support for Slackware ARM, I've copied my Slackware tree into RAM on my NFS server just to make it a little bit faster. So that should be good. Hopefully. Alright, cool. Alright, so it's installing, so we'll return when that's complete. The installation has completed, at least installing the packages, and now we need to flash the firmware to the SPI, so yeah, 2600, that's the correct speed for my RAM. Choose your firmware, that's the one. Okay, sounds good. Alright, so that's flashed. We don't need a mouse, but I'll just say yes anyway. I don't know what to call this machine. I'm going to call it Honey, for want of a better name. That's fine. Yeah, we'll have RPC as usual for NFS. No, we don't need fonts on this one. Europe. And yeah, doesn't matter about that. Set ourselves a password. Okay, I think that's it. We can just reboot. Power down the Honeycomb because I'm going to eject the SD card. We'll boot the Honeycomb from the SPI flash. But in order to do that, we need to adjust these dip switches here, which are currently slightly obscured by this cable. Let's try and get that out, this wire, get that out of the way. Right, so all of the dip switches need to be flicked in the down position, but this seems to have some kind of like film over the top of it. It's a bit weird. I don't know why you'd put film over the top of this. I tried to remove the film, but I couldn't, so I've just got a screwdriver, flat-headed screwdriver, and I'm just gently pushing them that way, like that. You can hear the little click. They're all now in the down position, which should mean it boots from SPI flash. Power on the Honeycomb. There we go. So it's now booting from SPI flash. Don't know what it's going to boot though by default because I haven't selected anything in the boot menu. So I'm just going to see what happens when you don't press anything. We have our SD card sitting out right now. We're not booting anything off of that. Oh, there we go. So if you don't change anything, it boots off SATA. So this should be booting the OS at the moment. And there we go. Cool. So there's our 16 cores. These are 32 gigs of RAM. Cool, okay. Looks good to me. I can't wait to start using this now. So to Brent, thank you very much for all of the research and development you've done to get Slackware working on the HoneyComb LX2. And I'm going to have a play around with it now. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.